Welcome to The Smart Divorce on Divorce Source Radio, helping you move forward with focus, hope, and confidence, saving you time, money, and your sanity as you build a better life post-divorce. I'm Steve Peck. Deborah Moskovich, divorce consultant, educator, and author of The Smart Divorce, brings you the leading experts and researchers in the field of divorce, and also speaks with those in the trenches, people that have learned from their divorce and how their experiences changed their lives. And they would tell you for the better. Deborah's learned that divorce can be a beginning, even if it looks like an end. Divorce can be rich in opportunity to learn and grow from. And on the Smart Divorce Radio Show, we'll explore how to take this information to create a positive post-divorce life. And now, here's Deborah.
How are you, Steve?
I'm great. We're talking about decorating today?
We are.
Wow, decorating.
Divorce is far more than just a separation agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce is also a new lifestyle, a change in life. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember when my divorce came through and suddenly single, no longer sharing my master bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
It was my domain. And what did I want to do to make this mine? So I loved having the extra closet space. Like, that was absolutely phenomenal.
The pros of going through a separation or divorce.
Yes, I had the extra closet for shoes and all my old clothes, but it made it mine. And there were a lot of other things that I wanted to do in my home to make it mine.
Mm-hmm.
Being mindful of the fact that I still had 3 young children at home, so I didn't want to erase their dad.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want them to feel badly about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I did want to make an impact on my space. So I changed the linens in my bedroom. You know, I changed like the little things that I thought were important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, throughout my home, I couldn't afford to do anything else after having gone through a high conflict divorce, which was once my ex-husband moved out of the home, it was still ongoing. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a lot of money to put into the space,
Yeah.
but I really did want to make it mine. And I think it's really important to do that, just to feel good about you and your space. And I wrote an article for More Magazine, and it's all about transforming your space from we to me.
So what about guys? Do you think they think about transforming their space too?
Well, we've got a great guest today, and her name is Deirdre Dyent, and she works with a lot of guys who move out of the matrimonial home and create that space for their change in lifestyle. But what I really like about what Deirdre does is put the children's best interest first. Like, what does that space mean for guys? And how can they make it child-friendly and make it just not a house, but a home?
Right. Not a frat house, right?
Not a bachelor pad, but a home. You know, one of the things that I found, like when I do my own workshops, and I've got a lot of men in my workshops, and we talk about reconfiguring your space and your mindset and everything else, is that you don't want your kids to feel like they're just visiting the other parent's home. They want to make it like it is their home. So I want my kids to think of it as, you know, this is our home. You know, my space is
Mm-hmm.
our home. It's not mom's house and dad's house. Like, my house is our house. That's the way I figure. But when it comes to men, I tell them a lot, you know, be mindful of the fact that you have girls. They have their things that they need, and I don't want to see my daughter packing these things up, you know, weekly. Be it, you know, personal hygiene products, you know, should my daughter have her period, hair care products, like, you know, different things like that. I think it's really important to have them at both homes.
Yeah, I can see. Man, we need help. Us guys need help.
Well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to be told that, you know, I'm too biased in one way or the other. But yes, I can see that. And it's just that you don't think about these things.
Deirdre, welcome to The Smart Divorce on Divorce Source Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
So, Deirdre, why don't you give us a little bit of insight? When someone moves into a new home, how do you help them overcome the challenges of moving into their own space when they were so used to sharing space with a partner?
Well, I think when somebody moves into a new space after divorce in particular, or any other life-changing event, but in particular divorce, I think you are in a really low spot. I think I think divorce, maybe it's been years in coming, but I think when it does happen, it's still always a shock.
No kidding.
And when you leave your matrimonial home and often leave your children, you get to a place where you can actually really become depressed. Mm-hmm. And often that move and all those uncertain questions of, what the rest of the next chapter of your life is going to look like lets you often let things go.
I agree with you. It's such an emotional and depressing time. And so from a guy's point of view, you find yourself out of your house and you're like looking around for an apartment. And, I'm used to living in a nice house. And now you find yourself going through apartments and you're like, oh my God. I mean, it's horrible enough, but then what do I do to even make it a home again?
Exactly. So what I do with my clients is I help them decide where they're going to live. I help them decide what their budget is and if they should rent, if they should buy. And really, I am an interior designer, but when I work with clients who are interior design is a luxury item. And I try and help my clients just get through that stage so they can look forward to their future. So I bring in what they've got and work with their budget, and I'll help fill any gaps. And certainly I work towards creating systems of organization for the kids, so the kids aren't the victims in this.
One of the things that you do that I really like and I admire is that you really help your clients decorate with their children in mind. Steve and I were talking earlier about not making it that bachelor pad, but making it a real home.
Exactly.
So what are some of the tips that you advise your clients for including their children when they're decorating?
Well, first, I don't want to ever alienate the parent that is left in the matrimonial home. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that both parents are team players and work towards creating two homes for their children. So there would be a wall of family photos. There would be bedrooms of similar style and size that they're used to. So trying to create a bunch of continuity between the two houses and systems to make it easier. Notice boards, calendars, similar kind of clothing and that kind of stuff.
One of the things, like I wrote an article for More Magazine on the same topic. And so let's go back and talk about how we can help people really think this through. I like the idea of a calendar. I think a family calendar is critical, maybe even having it in the kitchen so that children see that the home that they're, it's not their residential home. It's the home that they go to for the non-custodial parent. I hate to use labels. I hate it. So I'm trying to sort of phrase it in a way, but that they see that parent really cares about what's going on in their life. So even though they're not there 24/7 or all the time or a lot of time, at least that parent knows when the dentist appointments are, when the exams are, when the hockey games are, when the dance recitals are, whatever it is. Just having that calendar to show the children that, I care about your life.
Exactly. And having the children, if they're old enough, to fill in the calendar so that mom or dad or whoever spends less time with the children can be involved with after school sports events and important other events in their life, birthday parties, etc. So that both parents, because often the parents at this stage aren't really interested in having long conversations anyway.
Right. So even if you're not attending, at least it gives you a frame of reference and it gives you something to talk to your children about.
Right.
I think the other thing that is important, and do you do this as well? Because you just talked about the continuity, but I really would like my clients, my divorce consulting practice, to say to their children, come on, we're going to go pick out new linens for your bedroom. Let's go pick out something that's totally different, that you would really love, and let's do it together as a team.
Absolutely, but I think it's really important that the parent doesn't try and up the other parent, because it will come back and backfire on that parent. If they're trying to put the big, huge flat screen TV in their room. It really is going to come around. So, for example, say dad moves out and he puts a huge flat screen TV in the kid's bedroom. Mm-hmm. And when the parents were married, they had decided that they never wanted to have a TV in the kid's bedroom or access to the internet or whatever. Mm-hmm. But now that parent is trying to maybe slightly become the more popular parent.
Yeah.
And so the TV or the internet actually harms the child, and it harms all the relationships between the child and the mother, the child and the father, the ex-wife and the ex-spouse.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I'll tell you why. Because what often happens is parents are afraid that children aren't going to want to come and visit them. So, and I hate to use the word visit, but for argument's sake, let's just use that. Parents are afraid that they're not going to want, that the kids aren't going to want to come over on a visitation basis. So they go all out and they provide like this Disney kind of environment. Right. And the parents who are the residential parents are afraid that the kids aren't going to want to live with them anymore because
right.
of all that's at the other home. But
exactly.
It goes against their values, or they might not have the money to do that. So there could be also, Steve, like, what do you think? Like a financial disparity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I see how it's harmful to the other parent for sure, and you're just trying too hard, I guess, on the other side when you're giving them everything. That's not what you used to do. You know, you used to have more common sense in that, and now all of a sudden you're changing the rules.
Yes.
Now, some parents do change the rules because they always had a different philosophy than their partner, and now it doesn't really matter. Right. But I do think that there has to be respect. There's got to be a lot of respect between the parents in terms of co-parenting.
Respect and communication, and the calendar is a good method.
Yeah, I think so. What are some things that can be done to make the transition as easy as possible for children? And at what ages do we do different things? Like, what transition items are there? For teens and tweens, are there certain things that make it easier?
Yeah, which is an interesting question, Debbie, because it's like in those household makeovers they do on TV, and they do these really cool rooms for the kids. They're only cool for about 5 years.
I agree.
A 15-year-old doesn't want to live in a little sailor ship anymore.
Exactly.
I agree. I think what I do is I pull it all together. So I have, you have to work with their financial situation, and I'm more about creating new memories and hope for the future. So
I like that.
If it's creating, finding new activities to do with your children when they're with you in the home that isn't going to cost a lot of money. Rather than, giving your kid a big flat screen TV so they're looking forward to coming over to your house, set up a kitchen equipped for cooking and with cookbooks and all the equipment to maybe put together and look forward to putting together a dinner party or a bake sale or things, those sorts of new traditions that that parent has an opportunity to bond with their children.
That's a great idea. Do you ever see this revenge decorating, where one partner never got to choose leather sofas and loves leather, even though, or whatever it was, it's not practical, but chooses it just because their partner would never let them have it? Yeah, I do see that. But more often than not, they'll want one room that's like a man den or a man cave.
Thank you.
Bachelor pad, yeah.
Bachelor pad. But generally, I find that they want to have something that's more not in your face. Hey, I'm out on my own. They want to have a good memory with their children and meet another person. So, if they're doing a man cave with a lot of leather, that's not really going to appeal to a lot of new lady friends.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about someone who doesn't have children? I love the fact that you do really try to put the kids' best interests first, and you help your clients decorate with the children in mind. But not every marriage ends with children. So when there aren't children involved, what advice do you have, for couples starting out again?
Well, I would say, again, back to my philosophy, which is helping these individuals getting through this transitional stage. Mm-hmm. So if it's working out or improving your image or setting up an environment that is conducive to having guests over or friends, those are things that I work towards to create. So they look forward to coming home and having dinner parties and making new friends.
That's a good point. Looking forward to coming home. I would think that, when you're living with someone, you're used to having someone around a lot. And all of a sudden, the environment now becomes a little more lonely because you're on your own. So how do you help them, through making their home like a sanctuary so that it really is comforting to them and not depressing?
And funny enough, sometimes this is the first time in their married life that they have an opportunity to have a sanctuary at home. Mm-hmm. Maybe, we're all slightly assuming that because they've left a matrimonial home, it will be worse. But often it's better.
Do you ever help people reconfigure their matrimonial home? That's something that I had to do. That's something I wanted to do, is put my own imprint and my own personality into my home. Without erasing memories that my children had from being a family of 5. Now
exactly.
It's 4.
Yeah. I have less clients like that, but that would just be like a normal interior design job where, we're just updating and we're painting and we're new bedding and stuff like that.
Deirdre, is it easier for, like, if I'm a dad and I have my son coming over, I would imagine it would be easier for me to do my house in an appropriate way for him as opposed to if I had a daughter. Because, let's face it, I mean, your son can come over with you and you can have your Sony PlayStation and, the place can be a little more man cave and everything is cool. But if you have a daughter, it's different. Or how about that for you, Deborah? I mean, you have a son. Do you feel...
I have one of each. I have a son and a daughter. And when I advise my clients on... Because I get involved right at the beginning, whether they're going to rent or they're going to buy, they're going to be in the neighborhood, are they going to go to a condominium? So sometimes I'm just the voice of reason. I say, look, you have a teenage daughter. She needs her own bathroom. Or, you have to... They don't, sometimes it doesn't enter their mind, or they're just totally confused. So I help them put some priorities in place.
Yeah. Steve, I understand what you're saying, like in terms of the man cave versus the feminine touch. I've got 2 boys and a girl, and so my boys really are into their Nintendos and PlayStations, and I don't even know what the games are anymore. I can't keep up, or the Wii, whatever it is. Right. My daughter's not into it as much, maybe like when she's got friends. So it's kind of like my basement is set up more for the boys and their toys.
Oh, cool.
And the family room is more where, I guess, my daughter and I, we watch our shows together.
Yep.
That's what it is. Our Desperate Housewives, that's what we watch every Sunday. No, but I had my shows with my sons. I watched Lost with my older one and House with my younger one. We do have our shows, our favorite bonding shows, and I love that. But Dee Dee, one of the things I mentioned to Steve earlier, and I think this is so important, is that parents need to be cognizant of the fact that, like toiletries, I just really hate to watch my kids pack up certain things as they go back and forth. And is that something that you help educate your clients about, is, your kids need certain things?
Yeah, we give them a checklist. So the kids don't have to go back, don't have to bring that stuff back and forth.
Yeah. Girls like their certain hair products and boys like their shaving products. Yeah. And I remember when my daughter went to her father's one weekend, and we were both fighting over my hair straightener, and we both have curly hair. And I said, but I need it. And she said she needed it. And it's not something her father would even think to buy, and would probably think that $140 is the biggest waste of money. But yet, but you know what? It's like so important to us. And as we were fighting over it, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is like the most ridiculous thing. For sure, I think that this is something my daughter would want, on the weekend. And so I went out and I bought her one to take there.
That reminds me of the toothpaste story for the married couple with the tube of toothpaste. One squeezes it from the top and one squeezes it from the bottom. And, they're about to have a divorce over what's the right way to squeeze the toothpaste. Well, just go and buy your own tube of toothpaste and squeeze it whatever way you want.
Nice.
Exactly. So what, just any parting thoughts in terms of the top 5 things that you would want people to think about as they transition into their new home?
Well, most people buy on emotion.
Yeah.
They need a lot more reason than emotion. Really think it through, where you're going to live and how much you're going to spend.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, too, if I could just cut you off for a little bit. In terms of where you live, and especially when you've got children, you want to try to live as close to their other parents as possible so they can stay in the same school district, be close to their friends.
Absolutely, and it'll make your life easier as well. If you're not having to bring all those items that they've forgotten for the sports event and all of that stuff, it makes when children are older and they can get around on their own.
Right, and it would encourage also, especially for older children, for the having a closer relationship. If you live really far, like 20 minutes or half an hour away, let's face it, teenage kids want to spend time with their friends. They don't really want to spend time with any parent. So at least if you're close enough in proximity, dropping in for lunch or dinner makes it that much simpler.
Absolutely. Yes.
How did you come up with this idea?
When I first got married, I moved to England, and my husband and I at the time ran a very famous hotel. And so a lot of my philosophy or evolution as an interior designer has a lot to do with the person's experience in the home. And then I moved back to Canada and went through my own divorce. And when my ex moved out, the first apartment he went to, we both agreed that we never wanted our children to see this place. It was a dismal basement apartment. And that when he 6 months later got another 3-bedroom apartment, I decorated it. I did the floors, redid the kitchen, remodeled the bathroom, and furnished it, and involved the kids in the process. And it was a really nice experience for all 4 of us, in fact. And I think it was all a win-win situation. It helped my relationship with my ex. It wasn't, the kids often feel they have to keep a secret between both parents. Like, wow. My son does have a big flat screen TV in his father's house. And I remember, don't come over, Mom, don't come over. This is my secret with Dad. But you know what? Those things don't work. You can't have secrets. You have to, it has to be fair. And so that's kind of how I came into this.
I think it's great. It's a wonderful niche and something that I think so many people need help with.
Well, how's business?
There's always people getting divorced, unfortunately.
And how do they find you?
Divorce lawyers, and I've been in the paper, and
you've got a great website. Why don't you? What's your website?
My website is DeirdreDyent design.com.
Gotcha. And so you work right around your surrounding area.
I do.
So for listeners all over the country listening to the show, what do they do?
Shoot me an email, and in fact, I have a checklist of things to help them figure out, some priorities and some tips and ideas. So I can work from afar.
Well, we can work. That sounds like a good plan.
I think it's a great idea. And it's cost effective. You're concerned about someone's budget. Oftentimes, some of the designers think more about the beauty rather than the budget. And so people can't afford that next step. But with you, they can't afford it.
Right. And I take the luxury out of interior design and put it more into a necessity at this stage in their life.
Hey,
that's fabulous.
Can I ask you what hotel, that famous hotel you guys managed?
It was called Thornbury Castle, and it was in southwest England. And it was voted number 1 in the world by Condé Nast Traveler when we ran it.
Actually a castle?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
how cool.
It was very cool.
If you know how to
So-
decorate for a castle, I'm sure you can make my little apartment a castle too.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us on the Smart Divorce on Divorce Source Radio.
Thank you very much for having me.
There you have it, Debbie. Designing men. What do you think?
I think it's a fabulous idea. I do think, okay, so I'm a little biased, but, many men, I don't want to say all men, and I don't want to say most men, are lacking on the design side.
I'll say most men. How about that?
I did go with a guy who had way better taste than me, and I wished that he would do my home, like he would decorate my home, and
Really?
he had the most phenomenal garden. So there are those that do have great taste, exceptional taste, but
Yes.
there's a lot of people that need help. I need help myself. I have to say that I work with the decorator when I want to do a room or two. It's a lot of money, buying a sofa, a chair, doing a room. You don't want to make mistakes. And I think that when you're transitioning, you don't want to take out certain revenge and anger, like certain emotions into your place.
Yeah, you brought up revenge decorating or something like that. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, well, I can kind of see how that could happen, but not with revenge. It's just that for a lot of us guys, we spend our married life living in a home with our wife, and we don't have a choice of what to put where. I mean, if we want to put up one of our favorite posters on the living room wall, that's like, no, you don't. And so when we get to our own place, maybe we want to
Right.
go wild.
You might want to go wild. And then when you actually do that, get wild and do your decorating, you see how ridiculous that poster looks in the middle of your living room.
I love that poster. I've had that since high school.
So there you have it. Another fabulous episode of the Smart Divorce on Divorce Source Radio.
It's my Farrah Fawcett poster.
There you go. So
All right.
she's a beautiful woman.
Thanks a lot. Listen, if you want to contact us, you can write us at divorcesourceradio@gmail.com. And Debbie, you have an email address and website?
Yes, it's info@thesmartdivorce.com, and my website is www.thesmartdivorce.com, and you can also access my blog off my website.
And listen, I'll put in a plug for you. Check out Deborah's book if you haven't already. The Smart Divorce is awesome, and you've got some really cool projects you're working on, Deborah. I hope to talk to you about them in upcoming shows.
Oh, you will. You can count on that.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time on Divorce Source Radio.